They had banned her catsuit at the French Open just months before. They said it was disrespectful. So when she walked onto the US Open court wearing a tutu, everyone knew this wasn't just an outfit choice. It was a declaration of war. Welcome to the story, Gook. Before we dive into the story of fashion, defiance, and redefining what female athletes can be, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today. And if you believe that champions make their own rules, hit that subscribe button and help us share stories that celebrate those who refuse to be silenced. This is the story of how one outfit changed everything. Not just for Serena Williams, but for every woman who was told to dress smaller, speak quieter, or be less than who they truly are. The controversy began 4 months earlier at the 2018 French Open. Serena Williams had returned to tennis after a traumatic childbirth experience that nearly cost her life. She was fighting to get back to her championship form, but she was also fighting for something more personal: her health. Blood clots had been a constant threat since Olympia's birth. The doctors were clear: compression was crucial. So Serena's team designed something revolutionary: a full-body catsuit that provided medical compression while allowing her to compete at the highest level. The outfit was sleek, black, powerful. It hugged every muscle, every curve, every inch of the body that had carried her to 23 Grand Slam titles and through the miracle of creating life. She called it her superhero costume, and for the first time in months, she felt like herself again. But the French Tennis Federation saw something different. They saw a woman who was taking up too much space, making too bold a statement, refusing to blend into the background of tennis tradition. Bernard Giudicelli, the president of the French Tennis Federation, made an announcement that would change tennis forever. I think that sometimes we've gone too far. Serena's outfit this year, for example, would no longer be accepted. You have to respect the game and the place. The message was clear. Serena Williams, one of the greatest athletes in history, needed to respect the game, as if her 23 Grand Slams hadn't earned her that right. As if her body, her health, her choices were somehow disrespectful to a sport she had elevated for 2 decades. The ban wasn't just about clothing. It was about control, about telling a black woman who had dominated a predominantly white sport that she was still somehow out of place. But if the French Tennis Federation thought they could silence Serena Williams with a dress code, they had severely underestimated who they were dealing with. To understand the power of what happened at the 2018 US Open, you have to understand what Serena had been through in the months leading up to it. September 1st, 2017. Serena Williams gave birth to her daughter, Alexis Olympia Ohanian Jr. It should have been the happiest day of her life. Instead, it almost became her last. During delivery, Serena experienced a pulmonary embolism, blood clots in her lungs that could have killed her in minutes. She knew the symptoms, tried to tell the medical staff, but was initially dismissed. I was like, I need a CT scan with contrast, and I need it now. She later recalled, and they were like, what? Because I guess they didn't really listen to me. The next 24 hours were a nightmare of emergency surgeries, more clots, and the terrifying realization that tennis, her life's work, might be over forever. For months, she couldn't train properly. The threat of blood clots meant constant monitoring, medication, and the very real possibility that her body would never again be capable of the explosive power that had defined her career. But champions aren't made by perfect circumstances. They're forged by impossible ones. By early 2018, Serena was ready to return. The Australian Open was too soon, but she targeted the French Open as her comeback tournament. She would need medical compression gear, careful monitoring, and outfits designed specifically for her health needs. That's when Nike created the catsuit. It wasn't a fashion statement. It was a medical necessity wrapped in empowerment. Every thread was designed to help her blood circulation, every seam crafted to support her return to greatness. She wore it with pride at Roland Garros, making it to the fourth round before losing to Maria Sharapova. It wasn't the result she wanted, but it was proof that she belonged back on the court. Then came the ban, and Serena Williams decided that if they wanted to make it about more than tennis, she would show them exactly what more than tennis could look like. The US Open was 6 weeks away when the French Open dress code was announced. 6 weeks for Serena and her team to respond to what many saw as a direct attack on her autonomy as an athlete and a woman. The initial reaction was measured, professional. "I think the ban is a little extreme," Serena said in interviews. "But I'm already designing new outfits for the US Open that will be amazing." Behind the scenes, however, a different conversation was happening. This wasn't just about creating a new outfit. It was about creating a response that would be impossible to ignore. Nike's design team, led by some of the most innovative minds in sports fashion, began working on something that had never been attempted in professional tennis. They weren't just designing an outfit, they were designing a statement, a piece of wearable activism that would speak louder than any press conference. The concept was revolutionary, a tutu. Not the delicate, ethereal tutus of ballet, but something powerful, athletic, unapologetically feminine, yet undeniably strong. It would be black, like the band catsuit, but layered, textured, impossible to ignore. The message would be embroidered directly into the fabric, visible to every camera, every spectator, every person who had ever questioned whether female athletes could be both powerful and feminine, both champions and mothers, both respected and revolutionary. But the most important element wasn't what you could see, it was what you couldn't. Beneath the tutu, integrated into the design itself, was the same medical compression technology that had been banned in Paris. Serena would get the health support she needed, but now it would come wrapped in a package that celebrated everything the French Tennis Federation seemed to fear. A woman who refused to make herself smaller for anyone's comfort. The embroidered message was simple, but it would soon become iconic. Champion, Queen, Goddess, and Mom. 4 words that captured not just what Serena was, but what she was telling every woman watching. You don't have to choose between strength and femininity, between being a champion and being a mother, between fitting in and standing out. August 27th, 2018, Arthur Ashe Stadium, the first round of the US Open. Serena Williams walked onto the court for her first Grand Slam match since the French Open controversy, and the world stopped. The tutu was everything the designers had promised, and more. It was elegant but aggressive, feminine but fierce, respectful of tennis tradition while simultaneously shattering it. The black fabric caught the lights perfectly, the embroidered words visible from every angle, the overall effect both stunning and unmistakable. But it was more than just the visual impact. It was what the outfit represented in that moment, on that court, in front of that crowd. Here was a woman who had been told to tone it down, and her response was to turn it up. Here was an athlete who had been told to respect the game, showing that sometimes respect means changing the game entirely. The crowd's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Standing ovation before she hit a single ball. Cameras flashing not just from the press section, but from every corner of the stadium. Social media exploding with images that would be shared millions of times within hours. Her opponent, Magda Linette of Poland, later said she was almost intimidated by the entrance. It wasn't just that she looked incredible, Linette recalled. It was the energy. She walked onto that court like she owned not just the game, but the entire conversation around it. The match itself was vintage Serena. She won 6-4, 6-0, playing with the kind of power and precision that reminded everyone why she was considered the greatest of all time. But for once, the tennis was almost secondary to the cultural moment happening around it. In the post-match interview, when asked about the outfit, Serena's response, perfect. I feel like a warrior princess kind of thing. Sort of. I've always wanted to be a mom and play tennis, and I didn't think it was possible to be both. But I'm doing it, and it feels really good. A warrior princess, playing tennis as a mom, doing the impossible and making it look not just possible, but powerful. The internet's response was instantaneous and overwhelming. Within 6 hours, Serena Tutu was trending worldwide. Fashion magazines were calling it revolutionary. Athletes from other sports were posting their own pictures in tutus. Young girls everywhere were seeing something they had never seen before. A champion who looked like strength incarnate and wasn't apologizing for it. But the real impact of the Tutu moment went far beyond that single match, that single tournament, or even that single season. It represented a fundamental shift in how female athletes could present themselves to the world. Before Serena's Tutu, the conversation around women's sports uniforms was always about making athletes more palatable, more acceptable, more traditionally feminine in ways that didn't threaten anyone. After the Tutu, it became about empowerment, about athletes having the agency to define femininity for themselves. The business impact was immediate and massive. Nike reported that sales of women's athletic wear spiked 200% in the weeks following the US Open. Tutu-inspired athletic wear became a legitimate fashion category. Young athletes around the world started requesting outfits that made them feel like Serena. But more importantly, the cultural impact was permanent. Female athletes stopped hiding their muscles under loose-fitting clothes. They stopped apologizing for taking up space. They stopped accepting that power and femininity were somehow incompatible. The French Tennis Federation, meanwhile, found themselves on the wrong side of history. Within months, they quietly revised their dress code policies. The band that was supposed to control Serena Williams had instead liberated an entire generation of female athletes. Looking back, the 2018 US Open Tutu wasn't just an outfit choice. It was a masterclass in how to respond to attempts at suppression. Instead of backing down, Serena doubled down. Instead of playing it safe, she played it bold. Instead of giving them less, she gave them more. More power, more presence, more proof that champions don't ask for permission to be themselves. The message embroidered on that tutu: champion, queen, goddess, mom, became a rallying cry for women everywhere who were tired of being told they were too much, too loud, too strong, too anything. Today, when young female athletes design their competition outfits, they don't ask, will this be acceptable? They ask, will this make me feel powerful? That shift in thinking, from seeking approval to claiming power, is Serena Williams' lasting gift to sports. The tutu that broke the internet did more than go viral. It broke barriers, broke rules, and broke the idea that female athletes had to choose between being respected and being themselves. The next time someone tells you to tone it down, dress it down, or play it safe. Remember the woman who wore a tutu to work and reminded the world that warriors come in all forms. And sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is refusing to make yourself smaller for anyone else's comfort. So now I ask you, when was the last time you were told to be less of something? Less loud, less bold, less you? How did you respond? Share your story in the comments and let us know what city you're watching from. Thank you for watching The Story Gook. If this story of fashion defiance and refusing to be silenced inspired you, subscribe for more stories that celebrate those who change the game by being authentically themselves. We'll see you in the next story. And until then, remember, champions don't just break records. They break rules that were never meant to limit greatness in the first place.